So I'm Brett Batty, and I'm trained as a composer, and my work is actually a combination of visual animation work and music, but I call them composing both mediums together. So Puente de Raya has shown two pieces of mine, and they're both part of a series of pieces that are called the Luna series, and they're all working with the same general technique, but taking it in different directions. And the technique involves 3D rotations of something around 12,000 individual points. So it's rotation algorithms and then Brownian noise to jitter them in various ways. And then I'm also using an audio technique that I've developed, programmed in the computer, that involves computer control of audio feedback.
Yo soy Salva Piña y he venido de Bilbao. Soy recién licenciada en Bellas Artes. Trabajo con la luz, fotografiando la luz. Lo que hace en la imagen es recoger todos los colores, plasmando en la imagen algo que para nosotros puede ser inmaterial, que no la vemos, pero sin embargo nos hace ver. Mi corto está creado a base de múltiples de fotografías que ni una se repite. Voy uniéndolas, voy viendo cuál puede ir tras la otra y no he utilizado el ordenador más que para montar. Bueno, he utilizado el Premiere, lo más básico, y para montar y al final para darle ese movimiento, ¿no? Esa narratividad.
My name is Diana Alexandra. I'm composer and professor from Romania, from Bucharest. My movie, entitled Variations number 4 and 5, was selected by the jury at this festival. I'm very impressed by this festival, Puente de Raya. I like very much. I have found it very attractive and very new.
Hola, yo soy Carlos Nieves, vengo de Venezuela, pero vivo y estudio aquí en Barcelona. Mi pieza se llama Punkt, la hice específicamente para este festival. Simplemente tomé la música, las frecuencias y esa diferencia de frecuencias la apliqué a las características de los puntos y líneas que utilicé. Me gustaba experimentar, probar, explorar los límites de la creatividad y del uso del processing y el After Effects, que lo he aprendido desde hace muy pocos meses y bueno, me siento muy agradecido y es un honor ser parte de este festival.
My name is John Osborne. I'm from Edmonton, Canada, and I have two films in the two festivals, and they're based on initially a pattern generation software that I developed using evolutionary algorithms. Initially the patterns were developed with the computer sort of automatically, and then what I did is took those basic images and then used some special effects software like After Effects to add some more interest to it. And also put some music compositions together to go along with the films. And so it was sort of iterative process with some images and sound, and then I iteratively back and forth until I had the finished piece.
Alba. He presentado Gold Thinkings. Es de los primeros vídeos que he grabado porque antes veía que no era importante grabar vídeos y ahora sí. Y entonces quiero agradecer a Punto y Raya que ahora me da cuenta que aprender a grabar un vídeo en HD y esas cosas es importante.
Okay, my name is Petronio Bendito. I teach motion graphics and web design at Purdue University. I'm also like a new media artist. We mostly work with dancers and musicians and programmers as well. Visual music was actually created based on the music by French composer Didier Gig. He does electroacoustic, and inspired by that, I was trying to translate in terms of color. So the idea was to create a visual structure that was formally rigid, but the movement would be created through color and changing color parameters.
Soy María Painar, vengo del campo de la pintura en los inicios y de hecho mi pintura está llena de puntos y rayas. Me estimuló mucho ver las bases del festival y rápidamente me puse manos a la obra con mis pequeñas herramientas. Una alegría fue para mi sorpresa que me seleccionaran, puesto que tampoco llevo mucho tiempo dedicado a la animación, que son mis comienzos, ¿no? Hasta que a raíz de esto he cambiado de equipo, me he cogido mejores herramientas y desde entonces no hago otra cosa que animaciones.
I'm Ned Reznikov. My film is Race Point, and my technique is basically to do audio analysis on a piece of music, try and represent the different components of the music as graphical or visual elements. So in this piece, I take a piece of music recorded by the band Birdsongs of the Mesozoic. The name Race Point refers to the outermost beach on Cape Cod. It's one of those places you can see from outer space. Really felt the power of the ocean sitting underneath somehow everything. I wanted to get a little bit of the feel, the way the different harmonies interact basically as ratios or almost as a lattice work.
Soy Albert Callejo. Tenemos no un superávit, un mega superávit de información. Y el poder estar contemplando unos clips audiovisuales basados en puntos y líneas es como una limpieza, como una resta en un acercamiento a un silencio, a una tranquilidad mental.
Sabrina Schmid. I'm from England, the UK. I'm also a teacher, a lecturer in computer animation at the School of Computing, University of Teesside. E-Variations consists mostly of actually frame-by-frame drawing and experimenting with, I guess, the idea of automatic drawing, drawing abstract marks, and one of the aims was to try and give a handmade aesthetic or feeling to computer animation.
My name is Warren Stringer, and I'm from San Francisco, United States, and I make software. It was a bit of a challenge for me because just points and lines, and it was such a challenge that I decided, okay, I'll just focus on points instead of lines. There was 2 points of inspiration for me. One was the fact that the eye can only process really 4 channels of sizes, from very large to big blobs to very small blobs of sizes. The other was, as I was progressing in the piece, I was impressed by the fact that the sun can sometimes be obscured by the moon. And not only that, but you can obscure the sun with your thumb. And so, in a sense, your thumb is as big as the sun from your point of perspective. And so how do you change points of perspective? as something small becomes very large and something large becomes very small, and how does one thing obscure another. So that was the concept behind my piece.
El procés de selecció ha sigut una mica com la primera edició, on només hi havia un canvi amb un dels membres del jurat. S'ha realitzat a distància, no? En aquest cas. I la diferència és que naturalment aquesta segona edició ha tingut un nombre molt més gran d'obres i potser per això no hi ha hagut tanta unanimitat en les decisions.
And of course we each had our own opinions that didn't always match, and so then we started hashing it out and talking about the pros and cons of the different pieces and what we liked and what we didn't like about them. And eventually we kept voting and narrowing it down and voting and discussing. And finally we narrowed the field of 75 down to just the essential 60. And then we had to narrow that down. And it took a while, but we eventually came to the consensus that these were the best of the best.
La primera mención es para el film Color Kiss de David Daniels, de Londres.
Primera audiencia se lo lleva Oliver Fogel con la película Herbstlaub, Autumn Leaves o Hojas Otoñales.
Tercer premi, Stopages, de Astrid Hagengut, de Hannover. El segon premi és L'art de la fuga, del Daniel Pitart.
A set of 4 DVDs from the Iota Center, of which we only have 2 here. Because you're the 2 in the mail. And here's postcards.
técnica, digamos que sería una técnica de animación tradicional, de trabajar construyendo fotograma a fotograma, y básicamente, resumiéndolo, lo que se trataría es, a partir de una imagen de este edificio en perspectiva, lo que he hecho ha sido convertir cada una de las ventanas en un fotograma, encajándolo, digamos, o sea, reencuadrar una ventana, reencuadrarlo de una determinada manera y luego reencuadrar de otra determinada manera otra de las ventanas de esa fotografía. De manera que al estar el edificio en perspectiva y al fugar, las formas geométricas que cogen cada una de las ventanas es distinta, y entonces de alguna manera la animación, en cierta manera, no la creo solo yo, sino que es la propia fuga la que está creando esa animación.
Per Linearea de Idrioema, de Lisboa.